a Christian, do they have to be baptized to enter the kingdom of heaven?
That's
I had a discussion about this with my father, and we came to a little disagreement about that.
okay. So, but your father is not a bishop. He's not a patriarch. He's not a deacon. He's not a cardinal. He's not a pope. He's not an apostle. He's not a prophet. He can disagree with you, but what by what authority? What gives him the authority to tell you it's wrong or right?
Mm,
Right? Because if I
yeah.
want to understand the role of baptism in salvation, I look to the scriptures and the church that was entrusted with those scriptures by the Spirit to tell me the interpretation of those passages. So, historically, there's no doubt about this. Historically, there's one teaching that was unanimous all over the world by every Christian, even heretics, that the Holy Spirit used water baptism to regenerate you, to make you spiritually alive and unite you to Christ. No one denied this. Even Martin Luther affirmed it. It's not until you come to the Reformation over 1500 years later where you're going to have some people disagreeing. Even heretics agreed with the true believers, and even Martin Luther taught water baptismal regeneration. And even today in Protestantism, you have Church of Christ that teach water baptismal regeneration, that it's in the act of water that the Spirit makes you alive, unites you to Christ. Lutherans believe that. Episcopalians believe that. So this is a debate not among the ancient churches. Orthodox, Catholic, Assyrian Church all agree. The early church, first century writings, second century, third century, fourth century, fifth century, unanimously, universally all agreed. No one dissented. Even Martin Luther accepted it. So who are these people who come centuries later telling us, no, that's not what it means, and no, baptism doesn't regenerate? By what authority? Who gave them that authority? By what authority?
No.
It's a problem in Protestant. It's never been a problem in the ancient churches. Never. Historically, you have first century writings like the Epistle of Barnabas, second century writings, Justin Martyr, Irenaeus, third century, fourth century, unbroken chain from true Christians, Orthodox believers who were disciples of the apostles, appointed by the apostles and their disciples. They all taught water baptism is used by the Spirit to make you alive, unite you with Christ, and forgive. It's even in the Nicene Creed, where it says, I believe in one baptism for the forgiveness of sins. It's universal teaching. So some guy comes today and says, well, no, John 3:5 doesn't mean water baptism. Who told you? Oh, because the context. What context? These people have been reading context long before you existed, and they say you're wrong. So if you're telling me those who knew the apostles, trained by them, appointed by them in the power of the Holy Spirit, used by the Spirit to preserve the scriptures, which you're now using against them, and to defend the true faith and die for it, they say water baptism is used by the Spirit to make you alive, unite you to Christ, and bring forgiveness of sins. Who are you to then say they're wrong? So I was of the school that water baptism does not regenerate, because I was what they call a credo Baptist. So I was duped and deceived into thinking water baptism is a symbol, because I didn't know church history. I didn't know about the disciples of the apostles, their writings. I didn't know about the bishops that the Holy Spirit appointed through the apostles, laying hands on them and saying, you will now take over where we left off. We're going to go to heaven. You're going to take over and continue. I didn't know their teaching. But you know what happened when I got confronted with their teaching? It started messing me up. I started having problems. Like, uh-oh, because these were not heretics. Justin Martyr is not a heretic. Irenaeus is not a heretic. Irenaeus is the disciple of Polycarp, bishop of Smyrna, who died as a holy martyr at the age of 86. He was a disciple of the apostles, learned from the apostles, directly, word of mouth, eyewitness, taught by John. And Irenaeus says, John 3:5, water and baptism, water and spirit, that water is water baptism. It's right there, documented. It's right there on the
Yeah.
screen.
Mm,
If they got it wrong, no one got it right. We have the epistle attributed to Barnabas. This is first century, written around 70 AD. And in it, here it is, right here, Epistle of Barnabas, right here on the screen. This is first century, buddy, chapter 11. Baptism and the cross prefigured in the Old Testament. Now, first century, and some will date around 70 AD. Attributed to Barnabas, but most likely not written by him. Look what he says about water baptism. You ready?
yeah.
Right here. This means that we indeed descend into the water full of sins and defilement, but come up bearing fruit in our heart, having the fear of God and trust in Jesus in our spirit. So you go down in water, sinner, you come up alive. And that's Epistle Barnabas, Clement of Rome, and Shepherd of Hermes, and on it goes. Unbroken chain, brother.
Mm.
Right?